Your life is a reflection of your thinking. Every choice you make, every path you take, every limit you believe in or break through, it all begins with thought. Thought is the engine. Thought is the architect. Thought is the silent sculptor behind every visible success and every invisible sabotage. And if you want to change your life, you do not begin with circumstances. You begin with the 7 elements that shape your thinking, mold your character, and determine the quality of the world you experience. These are not theories. These are not fads. These are not motivational fluff designed to make you feel good for a moment. These are elements forged in the fire of discipline, tested by time, and proven in the lives of those who rise above average. Master them, and you master yourself. And once you master yourself, no environment, no rejection, no adversity, no critic can dictate your future. You will walk into every room with a quiet authority. Not because you are louder, but because you are rooted. Rooted in thought that is deep, sharp, prepared, and principled. The first element is clarity. Without clarity, thought becomes noise. And noise leads to confusion. And confusion leads to hesitation. And hesitation kills greatness. You must become ruthless in seeking clarity. Clarity of goals. Clarity of values. Clarity of priorities. A mind filled with vague wishes produces vague results. But a mind trained to cut through the fog to define what matters and delete what doesn't becomes a force of nature. You cannot afford to think like a drifter. You must think like a builder. And builders begin with blueprints. They do not move until the picture is clear. Clarity gives birth to power because it aligns your thoughts with your purpose. When your thoughts serve your purpose, your actions become laser-focused. And in a world of distracted minds, focus is a superpower. The second element is self-discipline. The bridge between a powerful thought and a powerful result is discipline. You can read all the books, attend all the seminars, repeat all the affirmations, but if you lack the discipline to follow through, your thinking is wasted. Self-discipline is the muscle that turns intention into reality. It is the quiet commitment to do what is right when no one is watching. It is the decision to show up when you're tired, to stay consistent when progress is invisible, and to keep your word to yourself even when excuses come dressed as logic. Thinking alone does not change your life. Disciplined thinking, followed by disciplined action, does. And the beauty is this: discipline is not a gift, it's a decision you make every morning. Will you command your mind, or will your mind command you? The third element is responsibility. Weak thinking looks outward. Strong thinking looks inward. The moment you take full responsibility for your life is the moment your mind begins to grow. Not because the world gets easier, but because you stop wasting time on blame. Responsibility is not guilt, it is ownership. It is the awareness that while you may not control everything, you always control your response, and in that response lies your freedom. Responsibility matures the mind. It transforms your thoughts from reaction to intention, from complaint to strategy, from emotion to elevation. Every person who has transformed their life has first transformed their relationship with responsibility. When you stop saying, "Why me?" and start asking, "What now?" you awaken a thinking process that builds empires. The fourth element is curiosity. Curiosity is the heartbeat of expansion. A curious mind doesn't just absorb, it explores. It asks better questions. It seeks deeper truths. It refuses to settle for surface-level answers. The curious thinker reads between the lines, listens beneath the words, and sees what others overlook. Curiosity keeps the mind young, flexible, and alive. It keeps you from becoming rigid, dogmatic, and stale. And here's the key. Curiosity is not a personality trait. It's a choice, a habit, a discipline. You train your brain to be curious by asking, "Why?" more often, by refusing to assume, by staying open, not gullible, but open. Open to growth, to contradiction, to surprise. Curiosity is what turns every conversation into a classroom, every mistake into a mentor, every challenge into a catalyst. The fifth element is accurate thinking. Not just positive thinking, not just hopeful thinking, but accurate, precise, truth-based thinking. A mind that thinks accurately is a mind that builds wisely. Accurate thinking is not cynical, it's intelligent. It is the ability to see what is, not just what you wish it to be, It is the courage to face facts without fear, and then use them as the foundation to create something better. Most people think with emotion, not precision. They build castles on clouds and call it confidence. But the builder who endures, the leader who rises, is the one who trains his mind to separate opinion from fact, assumption from observation, drama from data. Accurate thinking makes you immune to manipulation, immune to panic, immune to shiny distractions that promise quick success but deliver slow decay. The sixth element is perspective. Perspective is what gives thought its dimension. It's the difference between reaction and reflection, between pettiness and wisdom, between burnout and balance. Perspective reminds you that failure is feedback, not final, that delays are not denials, that storms don't come to destroy, they come to reveal. Perspective gives you altitude, and the higher you rise in thought, the smaller your problems appear. Not because they shrink, but because you've grown. Perspective is developed through time, reflection, reading, solitude, and conversations with people who've walked roads you haven't. It is the antidote to narrow thinking. And when you master perspective, you don't just survive hardship, you grow through it. You don't just endure change, you lead it. The seventh element is intentional exposure. You are the sum total of what you regularly consume. Your thinking is constantly being shaped by the books you read, the conversations you entertain, the environments you tolerate. If you do not guard your mind, the world will fill it with fear, distraction, noise, and conformity. But if you intentionally expose yourself to greatness, to wisdom, to excellence, to beauty, your mind begins to elevate by default. Exposure is not about entertainment, it's about alignment. Aligning your inputs with the future you desire. Read the biographies of great men and women. Watch what elevates, not what distracts. Listen to thinkers, not talkers. Surround yourself with people who challenge your assumptions, not validate your stagnation. Your environment is a mirror, curate it with intention. When you bring these 7 elements together, clarity, self-discipline, responsibility, curiosity, accurate thinking, perspective, and intentional exposure, your thinking changes at the root. And when your thinking changes, everything changes. Your words shift. Your energy shifts. Your standards rise. Your results compound. You stop begging life for mercy and start carving life with mastery. You no longer drift, you drive. You no longer react, you create. You no longer fear the future, you shape it. The world does not give its rewards to the loudest. It gives them to the sharpest, to the clearest, to the most deliberate. And that begins with thought. The greats are not born with superpowers. They simply master the art of thinking at a level the average will not. They don't just hustle harder, they think deeper. They don't just move faster, they move with meaning. And meaning is what separates effort from excellence. So if you want to be rich, not just in money, but in wisdom, peace, power, and purpose, master these elements. Not once, not for a season, but forever. Let them become the spine of your being, the code by which your mind operates, the lens through which you view the world. And every day, sharpen them. With every challenge, refine them. With every failure, fortify them. Because a man who thinks well lives well. And a woman who thinks sharply leads greatly. And when you think with clarity, discipline, responsibility, curiosity, accuracy, perspective, and exposure, you will become the kind of person who doesn't just succeed. You will become the kind of person who cannot be stopped. And once you've embedded those 7 elements into your thinking, not as tips, not as tactics, but as the very structure of how you see and respond to the world, everything around you begins to shift, almost without effort. But let me be clear. This is not magic. This is not luck. This is not some mystical secret whispered behind closed doors. This is principle. And principles, once mastered, produce predictable outcomes. You become cause, not effect. You don't wait for life to happen to you, you happen to life. And that shift, when your mind moves from passive to proactive, from distracted to directed, from scattered to sculpted, is the beginning of transformation that cannot be reversed. Because real transformation is not when your bank account changes, it's when your thinking does. The moment you begin to crave clarity more than comfort, when you begin to choose responsibility over blame, when you prefer truth over convenience, you've already outgrown the world that once held you down. And make no mistake, the world will notice. Not instantly, not with fireworks and fanfare, but slowly, subtly, in the way people respond to you, in the way new doors crack open that were once sealed shut, in the way adversity now feels like a test you were built for rather than a weight you can't carry. Why? Because your mind has become a fortress. Thought by thought, you've stacked bricks, you've sealed the cracks, you've fortified the gates. You no longer allow weeds of doubt to grow in the soil of your imagination. You no longer negotiate with fear, because you've studied how fear operates, and once you understand fear, you rob it of its mystery. You've seen the cycles. You've recognized the triggers. You've replaced the old scripts with higher language. And now, your inner dialogue is no longer self-sabotage. It is strategy. It is conviction. It is calibrated. And here's the beautiful paradox. As your thinking expands, your need for external approval contracts. You stop waiting for validation because you've learned to validate your own growth. You stop chasing praise because you've built internal alignment. You stop comparing because you've mastered the one game that matters, the one between your ears. And that's where freedom lives. Not in a number, not in a title, not in applause. Freedom lives in a mind that knows what it's doing and why. A mind trained to act, not react, to respond, not retreat, to reflect, not regress. That's the mind of a leader, a builder, a creator. And whether you build companies or character, movements, or meaning, it all starts the same way. With thought, but not just thought for thought's sake. Thought with structure, with discipline, with foundation, with those 7 elements turning constantly beneath the surface, keeping your awareness sharp, your behavior intentional, your direction consistent. You don't drift when you think like this. You don't sabotage your progress when you think like this. You don't fall back into who you used to be when you've tasted the power of deliberate thought. Let's make it practical. When you feel overwhelmed, reach for clarity. Ask yourself, what exactly am I trying to do right now? What's the real priority? When you feel tempted to quit, reach for discipline. Say, just one more rep, one more day of integrity, one more step in the right direction. When you feel like blaming, reach for responsibility. Ask, what part of this can I own? How can I turn this into fuel? When you feel stagnant, reach for curiosity. Ask, what haven't I tried yet? What haven't I learned yet? When you feel emotional, reach for accuracy. Ask, what are the facts? What do I know to be true? When life feels heavy, reach for perspective. Ask, how will I see this 1 year from now, 10 years? And when you feel distracted, reach for intentional exposure. Ask, what can I consume right now that will build me instead of drain me? That's how you master the mind. Not in giant epiphanies, but in moment-by-moment decisions to think better, deeper, truer. The thinking that builds resilience. The thinking that creates wealth. The thinking that fosters peace. The thinking that rewires generations. That's the power you hold. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, but now, in this moment. With this breath, with this one clear decision, I will think like the person I am becoming, not the person I've been. And that identity shift, that's where the real fire lives. Because once you believe you are a thinker, you start behaving like one. You start asking more, listening better, observing sharper, building smarter. And that behavior becomes habit. And habit becomes character. And character becomes destiny. This isn't theory. This is the blueprint behind every great life ever built. And it is not reserved for the chosen. It is claimed by the committed. You want to change your income? Master these elements. You want to change your relationships? Master these elements. You want to wake up with purpose instead of panic, with clarity instead of confusion, with peace instead of pressure. Master these elements again and again and again until they become instinct, until they become muscle memory, until thinking like this becomes who you are. Because once it's who you are, no circumstance can undo you. No failure can shake you. No opinion can define you. You will be grounded, rooted, anchored in the truth you've built with your own hands, your own hours, your own hunger for more. That is the reward. Not comfort, but command. Not safety, but sovereignty. Not ease, but elevation. So build. With thought, with clarity, with discipline, with depth. Build a mind that sees through the noise, a mind that navigates storms without losing center, a mind that cannot be bought, broken, or bent by the superficial. Master these 7 elements, not to impress the world, but to change it. One thought, one person, one act of courageous thinking at a time. And when the world asks, what happened to you? How did you become this clear, this calm, this strong, this effective? Smile, because they won't see the hours you spent in silence. They won't see the pages you devoured, the thoughts you rewrote, the patterns you unlearned, the beliefs you broke apart and rebuilt from truth. But you'll know, and that's enough, because you didn't get here by luck, you didn't get here by noise. You got here because you mastered the 7 elements that changed your thinking, and in doing so, you changed your life. And when you've mastered these 7 elements, not merely understood them, but absorbed them into your bones, your life becomes the living proof of inner work, not the loud kind, not the kind you post for likes or praise, but the kind that shows up in quiet strength, in the way you speak without stumbling, in the way you walk into pressure and don't flinch, in the way people feel safer, sharper, and stronger around you, and they can't explain why. It's because your mind has become a sanctuary, a place where fear gets filtered, chaos gets calmed, and doubt gets dismantled. Not because you never feel those things, but because your thinking knows how to meet them and master them. This is what the world needs now, people who can think deeply, sharply, ethically, strategically, not people who echo, but people who originate, not people who follow whatever is trending, but people who shape what will matter. And that starts not with charisma, not with status, but with how you structure your mind, how you choose to interpret reality, how you decide what to do with pain, with pressure, with possibility. The thinker is not always the loudest, but they are always the last one standing. Because when emotions pass, opinions fade, and circumstances shift, the one who still knows what they believe, what they stand for, what they're building wins. Let the others waste time trying to look smart. You'll use that same time to actually become wise. Let the others scroll. You'll study. Let the others gossip. You'll listen. Let the others wish. You'll work. And the compound effect of that choice, one day, 1 hour, one thought at a time, will build a life that others cannot comprehend. Not because you're better, but because you built differently. You thought deeper. You took those 7 elements and didn't treat them like inspiration, you treated them like instructions. Clarity made you focus. Discipline made you consistent. Responsibility made you powerful. Curiosity kept you evolving. Accuracy made you sharp. Perspective made you wise. And exposure kept you growing. You didn't just think, you restructured your thinking until it became a weapon against stagnation and a compass toward purpose. And every day you continue, that weapon sharpens. That compass calibrates. And the noise of the world fades under the weight of your direction. Understand this. The war is not out there. The real war is inside. Between the old thoughts and the new possibilities. Between the fear that wants you to stay the same and the vision that knows you're capable of so much more. And when you master thinking, when you train your mind to operate with these 7 elements guiding every decision, you win that war before it even begins. Because your mind is no longer the battlefield. It is the command center. And from that place, you don't just respond to life. You redesign it. This is the mindset that builds empires, that restores families, that leads teams, that navigates crisis, that plants ideas that last for generations, not surface-level thought, not motivational noise, but deep, disciplined, structured, meaningful thinking powered by principle, reinforced by character. The kind of thinking that turns time into legacy. The kind of thinking that never stops working even when you're asleep, because it's been trained to filter the world through values, through purpose, through the discipline you've built one moment at a time. And when your mind is built like that, what can stop you? What excuse could possibly survive the fire of your clarity? What fear could survive the steel of your discipline? What failure could hold back someone who's already trained their mind to learn from it, grow through it, and come back 10 times wiser? You're not afraid of setbacks anymore. You've studied them. You've welcomed them. You've dissected them until they became teachers. And that's what happens when thinking becomes your craft, not just a reaction, but a strategy. Not just a mood, but a mastery. Let the world keep looking for shortcuts. You've chosen the long road, the one made of substance. Let the world settle for appearances. You've chosen transformation. Let the world hope for luck. You've chosen structure. And it shows in how you carry yourself, in how you speak, in how you hold your silence, in how you make decisions without drama, in how you execute without fanfare. You don't need to talk about your growth, your thinking reveals it. You don't need to prove your worth, your results speak louder. And you don't need to fear the future because you've already trained the one thing that creates it. So keep going, keep sharpening, keep thinking like your destiny depends on it, because it does. Not someday, not when the conditions are perfect, but now. Now is when the foundation is being poured. Now is when your future is being shaped in silence. Now is when your habits are deciding whether your children inherit excuses or excellence. This is no longer about motivation. This is about responsibility. It's about answering the call to become the kind of person the world desperately needs: rooted, calm, principled, powerful. And the only way to become that kind of person is to think with discipline, with courage, with structure, with these 7 elements as your foundation. Every day, no matter what, whether you feel like it or not, whether it's easy or not, whether anyone claps or not. Because this isn't about applause. This is about alignment. It's about becoming so deeply aligned in your mind, your spirit, your decisions, that your life becomes a mirror of who you were always meant to be. And when people ask how you did it, how you kept your fire when others went cold, how you rose when others fell, how you stayed grounded when everything was shaking, tell them the truth. You learned to think. You studied the structure. You mastered the 7. And you never stopped. Not for a day. Not for a season. Not even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. You became unstoppable not because you had all the answers, but because you asked better questions. Because you let truth shape you. Because you let discipline lead you. Because you let thinking become your daily act of worship, your quiet revolution, your greatest tool of transformation. Master these 7 elements to develop your thinking, and nothing in this world can keep you from building the life you were born to lead. One vision can change a day. One choice can alter a year. But one sustained vision, held with fire for 10 years, can transform a life so completely that the old self becomes unrecognizable. 10 years may sound like a long journey, but let me remind you, a decade will pass whether you build or whether you drift. And when it does, you'll either look back in quiet pride or in quiet regret. The clock is indifferent. The years will move with or without your permission. The question is, will you? Life rewards those who decide, not those who merely wish, not those who merely hope, but those who decide with finality that things will not remain as they are. A decision, once made with total conviction, changes your entire psychology. It shifts your identity, rewires your habits, and forces your life to bow to a new standard. Decide to become rich in mind and in spirit. Decide to live with discipline. Decide to transform. Because indecision robs the soul. And nothing is more expensive than a wasted decade. The seed of wealth and growth does not start in the bank. It starts in the mind. If you want money, first earn the mindset that attracts money. If you want respect, first become the person who carries himself with respect long before applause comes. The external is always a shadow of the internal. That is why poor thinking will bankrupt a man faster than poor economics, and why rich thinking can carry a man through the leanest of years until his vision blossoms. Wealth is an inner frequency before it is an outer fortune. Your attitude is the compass that directs your life. A bitter attitude poisons every opportunity, while a grateful one multiplies every blessing. The same sun rises on 2 men. One curses the heat. The other grows crops from it. Which one are you? If you wait for circumstances to decide your mood, you will forever be a slave to external events. But if you decide that your attitude is yours, under your command, then life bows to your spirit, not the other way around. Rohn once said, "You cannot change the seasons, but you can change yourself. The weather, the markets, the politics, you cannot control them. But you can command your discipline, your energy, your perspective. And when you change yourself, everything changes with you. Discipline is the master key. Without it, all dreams decay into dust. Dreams without discipline are fantasies. Discipline is waking early when the bed whispers to you. It is reading when others binge distractions. It is saving when others spend for applause. It is keeping promises to yourself even when no one is watching. Every act of discipline builds an invisible account of character. And character is what wealth responds to. Fortune does not stay long with the reckless, but it loves to multiply in the hands of the disciplined. 10 years of discipline is an empire. Imagine what you could create if you treated each day like a sacred opportunity. Not a burden, not an obligation, but a sacred chance to write the story of your life in bold ink. If you lifted yourself 1% each day, compounding over 10 years, who could stop you? No government, no crisis, no critic could destroy that kind of momentum. Because compounding is not only for money, it is for the soul. Small improvements stacked daily become mountains of mastery over time. The power of communication is another pillar of transformation. Words are bridges or walls. How you speak to yourself shapes your psychology, and how you speak to others shapes your destiny. Speak carelessly, and you lose influence. Speak with clarity, respect, conviction, and suddenly doors open that were once locked. Your network expands not through luck, but through language. A decade of intentional communication can elevate your life into circles you never dreamed you'd enter. So guard your words. Let them be disciplined soldiers carrying your vision forward, not reckless arrows wounding your future. Mindset is the soil in which all success grows. A poor mindset produces weeds no matter how hard you work. A wealthy mindset, even with little, begins to grow fruit. What is mindset? It is the decision to see problems as challenges, obstacles as teachers, and failure as feedback. It is refusing to complain, because complaints are confessions of weakness. It is training your mind to be the master, not the servant, of your emotions. A rich man with a poor mindset soon loses his wealth. But a poor man with a rich mindset can build an empire from ashes. Guard your mind more than your wallet, for the mind is the source of all fortunes. Let us speak of habits, for they are the architecture of destiny. You will not become extraordinary by accident. You will become extraordinary by ritual. Habits are repeated votes for the person you are becoming. Every time you wake early, you vote for discipline. Every time you choose health over indulgence, you vote for longevity. Every time you choose study over laziness, you vote for wisdom. These small votes, cast daily, elect your future self. And over 10 years, they elect a version of you so powerful, so capable, that your old self becomes a stranger. Do not forget character. Skills will open doors, but character will determine whether you can stay inside. You can charm your way into a room, but only integrity keeps you seated at the table. Wealth without character is temporary. It burns, it slips, it vanishes. But wealth with character becomes generational. It multiplies because it is grounded in principle. Integrity may be unfashionable, but it is profitable. And in a decade of living by principles, honesty, responsibility, contribution, you build a legacy that money alone cannot purchase. Contribution is the final measure of transformation. To grow rich for yourself alone is poverty disguised. Real wealth is not what you take, but what you give. And giving is not merely money, it is time, attention, mentorship, love, and truth. Contribution expands your soul and cements your influence. 10 years of giving wisely makes you unforgettable. It etches your name not only in bank ledgers, but in human hearts. And that is the ultimate transformation. To live not only richer, but deeper, not only stronger, but kinder, not only successful, but significant. So, stand tall. One vision, carried with fire, guarded with discipline, pursued with urgency, lived with gratitude, spoken with clarity, multiplied through habits, anchored by character, and crowned with contribution. One vision can reshape 10 years into a masterpiece. And 10 years of compounded mastery can reshape your entire destiny. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are not too small. 10 years from now, you can stand where giants stand if today you decide to walk. Begin with one vision. Commit for 10 years. And watch the total transformation of your life unfold, not as a dream, but as a reality too great for the old you to even imagine. One vision begins with a spark, a whisper inside that says life could be more than what it is right now. That whisper is not random, it is your soul reminding you of the seeds planted deep within. Most people silence that whisper with excuses, with fear, with comfort. But a few, just a few listen. And those who listen, those who fan that spark into a flame, become the architects of lives that others call impossible. If you can hold one vision in your mind with clarity, with urgency, with relentless discipline, 10 years is enough to rewrite every line of your story. The tragedy is that most underestimate what a decade can do. They overestimate what can happen in a month, then get discouraged when quick results don't arrive. But they underestimate what can happen when they stay consistent for 10 straight years. Think about it. 10 years ago, you were someone else entirely. Your thoughts were smaller, your fears were louder, your standards were weaker. Yet here you are. If you changed this much without even trying deliberately, imagine how much more you could transform if you made every day, every year, every decision intentional. 10 years of aimless drifting produces regret. 10 years of intentional growth produces a life so powerful that history itself will remember you. But here's the truth. 10 years of transformation requires you to change the story you tell yourself every morning. The story of, I can't, must be replaced with, I must. The story of, I'm tired, must become, I'm building. The story of, it's too late, must be destroyed and replaced with, I've just begun. Jim Rohn said, don't wish it was easier. Wish you were better. That line contains the seed of everything. Because the moment you stop wishing for life to bend and you start bending yourself, you take control of the one thing you always had power over yourself. The key is discipline. Discipline is more valuable than motivation because motivation is a mood and moods are unreliable. Discipline is a commitment. It says, I'll show up whether I feel like it or not. And here is the truth. You don't need to love the process every day. You just need to obey it. A farmer does not wait to feel inspired before planting seeds. He plants because the season demands it. You must learn to live the same way. Feelings come and go, but standards must remain fixed. Discipline is the bridge between desire and destiny. Now imagine stacking discipline upon discipline, like bricks forming a cathedral. Each brick may feel small, unimpressive, even tedious, but stacked for a decade, they form a structure that towers over every excuse. Wake up early one day, it's a brick. Choose to study instead of wasting an hour, it's a brick. Save $100 instead of spending it on emptiness, it's a brick. And one day you look up and you are living inside a palace of character built from 10 years of bricks that most people refuse to lay. And they will look at your life and call it luck, but you will know it was discipline disguised as destiny. Attitude too is non-negotiable. Attitude is the lens through which you see everything. And if the lens is cracked, your entire view of the world is distorted. People with bad attitudes are surrounded by blessings but see only curses. People with great attitudes are surrounded by challenges but see only possibilities. One vision, carried with the right attitude, becomes unstoppable. Because where the negative man sees obstacles, the positive man sees material for greatness. Your attitude is your magnet. It attracts the quality of life you will live. If you want wealth, start with a wealthy attitude. If you want peace, start with a peaceful attitude. Because no one receives what they refuse to radiate. But let us go deeper. You must also master your mind. Most are slaves to their minds. They believe every thought. They obey every fear. They indulge every doubt. But the man or woman who learns to command their thoughts, who learns to reject what is weak and feed what is strong, becomes untouchable. 10 years of mastering your mind can make you unshakable in storms that destroy others. You will walk through chaos calm. You will face setbacks smiling. You will stand alone without loneliness. Because your inner fortress cannot be breached. Wealth without mental mastery is fragile. But mental mastery produces wealth that no economy can take away. Then there are habits, the silent builders of your destiny. Show me your habits and I will show you your future. Habits are your true religion, because you will always worship what you repeat. If you repeat laziness, you worship comfort. If you repeat complaining, you worship weakness. If you repeat growth, you worship potential. 10 years of the right habits turn ordinary people into living legends. Habits don't ask for permission, they carve your life whether you are conscious or not. So choose them carefully. Choose habits that your future self will thank you for, not curse you for. And contribution, never forget this. Contribution is the crown. To live for yourself alone is to live a small life. To live for others, to build, to teach, to uplift, to leave footprints for the next generation that is greatness. Wealth is a shallow goal if it ends with you. But wealth becomes divine when it becomes a tool to heal, to inspire, to elevate. A decade of contribution builds immortality. Because long after your body is gone, your impact remains. That is the only wealth that truly lasts. So take this vision and hold it in your heart like fire. One vision, 10 years, Total transformation. The clock is ticking anyway. The decade will pass anyway. The question is, what will you do with it? Will you waste it in distraction? Or will you build something so great that your children, your grandchildren, and even strangers will thank you for it? 10 years from now, your life will tell the truth about today's decision. Let it be a truth of power, of discipline, of growth, of contribution. Let it be the story of a person who heard the whisper, obeyed the vision, and built a transformation so complete it became legend. One vision, carried long enough, becomes a destiny carved into stone. The danger most people fall into is not lack of dreams, it is the lack of endurance. They start with fire and fade with smoke. They sprint with passion, then collapse in excuses. But you cannot build an empire on bursts of energy. You build it on unbroken resolve. Think of a mountain. It does not rise overnight. It rises grain by grain, pressure by pressure, until its summit pierces the heavens. Your 10-year transformation is the same. Each day is another stone laid, another grain added, another layer pressed into permanence. The mistake is thinking 10 years is too long. But time is not asking for your permission. It is moving with or without you. Look back 10 years. It feels like yesterday, and yet in those years, how many dreams were abandoned? How many habits remained unchanged? How many excuses repeated like a broken record? The future is begging you, do not let another decade slip like sand through idle fingers. Decide that this 10 will be different. Decide that when you stand 10 years older, you will stand 10 times stronger, wiser, richer, and more alive. Success begins with the sharpening of vision. A vague aim produces vague results. If you don't know where you are going, every distraction feels like an opportunity. Vision is a compass that keeps you from wandering into mediocrity. It is not enough to say, I want to be rich. Rich how? Rich when? Rich where? Rich in what? Do you want to be rich in mind, rich in body, rich in relationships, rich in contribution, rich in spirit, or only rich in dollars that slip through careless hands? Be precise. Be ruthless with clarity. Because 10 years of a blurred vision is 10 years wasted. But 10 years of a clear burning vision will take you places most people only dream. Understand this. Mediocrity is crowded. Greatness is lonely. Most will not last a week on the path of transformation, let alone a decade. That is why you must fall in love with being uncommon. When others laugh at your discipline, smile. When others mock your study, persist. When others quit, endure. Because in 10 years, those who mocked you will envy you, and those who doubted you will call you mentor. Greatness has always required separation. Not arrogance, but separation, a willingness to stand apart, to delay pleasures most people rush toward, to carry burdens most people drop, to think thoughts most people are too lazy to entertain. You must understand the price of transformation. It demands sacrifice. You will sacrifice nights of empty amusement. You will sacrifice the approval of those who fear your growth. You will sacrifice comfort because comfort is the coffin of progress. But the reward is staggering. Sacrifice for 10 years, and you can live free for the rest of your life. Avoid sacrifice, and you will pay a far greater price: regret. Regret is the heaviest debt a man can carry, and it always collects with interest. Better to sweat now than to weep later. Better to pay the price of discipline than the penalty of neglect. Neglect is the silent thief. You don't feel its damage in a day. Skip a workout, and you still feel fine. Waste a morning, and life still goes on. Spend foolishly, and no collapse happens at once. But add neglect over 10 years, and you will face a debt so large it will feel like life betrayed you. But life did not betray you. It simply tallied your neglect. Fortune is fair in that way. Discipline compounds. Neglect compounds. You choose which one will carry your name in a decade. And never forget, the richest soil of transformation is your mind. Guard it like treasure. If you let negativity flood it, weeds will choke your vision. If you let gossip and garbage feed it, your thinking will rot. But if you sow wisdom, discipline, strategy, and gratitude, the harvest will astonish you. Read daily, journal deeply, think clearly. 10 years of protecting your mind will make you untouchable in a world drowning in confusion. You will see what others cannot, because you disciplined yourself to think when others only reacted. And let us be clear, transformation is not just about success, it is about becoming dangerous in the best way. Dangerous to laziness, dangerous to ignorance, dangerous to mediocrity. A man who is transformed for 10 years is a storm the world cannot easily move. He becomes a leader others lean on, a force others cannot ignore, a builder of futures instead of a victim of chance. That is the man, that is the woman you are called to become. One vision is enough to ignite a life, but only if you carry it every day like armor and fire. 10 years will test it. The storms will come. Friends will doubt. Comfort will call. Disappointments will whisper, "Give up. It's not worth it." But the man or woman who refuses to let go of vision becomes unstoppable. Vision is not something you look at once in a while. It is something you breathe, something you carry in your bloodstream. The weak treat vision like a hobby. The strong treat it like oxygen. 10 years of holding fast to vision turns frailty into ferocity, turns a dreamer into a builder, turns a wanderer into a warrior. The world does not respect wishes. It respects evidence. And evidence is built in the trenches, in the repetition of small, disciplined acts that compound until they roar. Every push-up you do in obscurity, every page you read in silence, every dollar you save without applause, these invisible actions are building a visible future. The applause comes later. The cameras come later. 10 years of unseen work makes you an overnight success in the eyes of the crowd. But in your own eyes, you know it was brick by brick, inch by inch, sacrifice by sacrifice. The tragedy of most people is not that they aim too high and miss. It is that they aim too low and hit. They settle. They compromise. They accept mediocrity as if it were destiny. But destiny is not given, it is forged. It is the result of choices, multiplied over years, compounded by patience. You cannot cheat this law. Every day, you are either forging steel or rusting away. Every conversation, every decision, every morning and every night, you are voting for the future version of yourself. 10 years of careless votes creates a weak character. 10 years of deliberate votes creates a life of greatness. Do not wait for permission. Do not wait for perfect timing. The perfect time does not exist. Life is not waiting for you. It is moving. You must begin where you stand, with what you have. Jim Rohn said, "Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better." If you wait for easier, you will wait forever. But if you choose better, you will rise. Better habits, better thinking, better associations, better discipline. That is the path. You do not need to change everything in one day. You need only to decide today that you will no longer betray your own potential. The key is mastery of self. If you do not govern yourself, life will govern you. Appetite will govern you. Fear will govern you. Distraction will govern you. And in 10 years, you will look back and realize you were a slave to impulses. But if you take the reins, if you master your urges, your time, your focus, then you become the architect of destiny. A man who has mastered himself is a king, even if he wears no crown. A woman who has mastered herself is a queen, even if she holds no throne. Self-mastery is the throne no one can take from you. 10 years of mastery creates inevitability. If you rise early for 10 years, no one can stop your momentum. If you feed your mind for 10 years, no one can rob you of wisdom. If you build discipline for 10 years, no one can break your resolve. Do not underestimate what a decade of focus can achieve. 1 year of discipline can change your life. 10 years of discipline can change generations. Your children, your grandchildren, will live in the shade of the trees you planted in your decade of sacrifice. That is how powerful one vision, carried for 10 years, can be. Never underestimate the power of attitude. Attitude is the hinge on which destiny swings. The same storm that sinks one ship propels another forward, depending on the angle of the sail. Life is not the storm, it is your sail. If you choose bitterness, every trial becomes poison. If you choose gratitude, every trial becomes nourishment. Gratitude turns obstacles into teachers, pain into wisdom, loss into perspective. 10 years of gratitude will give you more wealth than money can buy, for it will give you peace. And peace is the ultimate currency, because without peace, riches are torment. So decide today, one vision, guard it with ferocity, 1 decade, fill it with discipline, 1 life, transform it until the old you is but a shadow you no longer recognize. When the years pass, and you will stand taller, walk stronger, live freer, and give deeper. That is the reward of vision carried through time. Total transformation. One vision is the great divide between the masses who wander and the few who rise. Most people spend their days reacting to bills, reacting to gossip, reacting to pressure. But a man with vision, a woman with vision, does not react, he directs, she commands. Vision gives you authority over your life. Without it, you are like a ship, without a rudder, moved by every current, tossed by every storm, dependent on luck. With it, you are the captain, cutting through chaos, moving with intention, carving a path even when the sea rages. 10 years of living with vision makes you immune to chance. It turns uncertainty into opportunity and resistance into fuel. But vision without discipline is hallucination. You can dream for decades and remain unchanged. You can speak affirmations every morning and stay broke. Transformation does not happen because you wish. It happens because you work. Discipline is the proof of desire. It is the evidence that you are serious. When you get up before the sun, you are proving to life that you mean business. When you choose to save instead of spend, to read instead of scroll, to act instead of complain, you are casting votes for the future. Do this once, and nothing changes. Do this for 10 years, and everything changes. You must learn the art of consistency. Not perfection, but persistence. The world does not crown the perfect. It crowns the consistent. A small step repeated for 10 years outruns the man who sprints for a month and quits. Consistency beats talent when talent refuses to show up. Consistency beats intelligence when intelligence refuses to act. Over 10 years, consistency builds a reputation, a body of work, a reservoir of resilience. It makes you trustworthy to yourself. And when you trust yourself, when you know that you will do what you say, then nothing is impossible. Beware of drifting. Drifting is the silent killer of vision. It feels harmless, just a missed day here, a small compromise there, a little indulgence that becomes a habit. But drifting always leads to erosion. One day you wake up, 10 years gone, and nothing to show but excuses. The antidote to drifting is intention. Every morning, remind yourself of the vision. Every evening, ask yourself if you lived closer to it or further from it. A decade of this awareness will keep you from wasting your life on things that do not matter. Your environment must serve your vision. You cannot plant roses in toxic soil and expect them to bloom. The people you walk with, the voices you allow, the spaces you live in, all of these either nurture or poison your dream. If you surround yourself with pessimists, your vision will shrink. If you surround yourself with builders, your vision will expand. 10 years in the wrong environment can destroy even the strongest will. But 10 years in the right environment can accelerate your growth beyond imagination. Guard your circle. Protect your atmosphere. Your future depends on it. Understand also that transformation is layered. The first layer is physical, your habits, your health, your work. The second layer is mental, your thoughts, your beliefs, your focus. The third layer is spiritual, your values, your principles, your connection to meaning. Work only on the surface, and your change will be temporary. Work on all layers, and your change will be permanent. 10 years of aligning your body, mind, and spirit with your vision creates a power that no setback can destroy. There will be suffering. Make no mistake, but suffering with purpose transforms. Pain endured for nothing breaks you. Pain endured for vision remakes you. The weight you carry in discipline strengthens your character. The resistance you face sharpens your strategy. The criticism you endure thickens your skin. After 10 years of purposeful suffering, you will not only be stronger, you will be unrecognizable. And those who once doubted you will wonder how you became so formidable. Never forget contribution. A life that only builds for itself will collapse in emptiness. Money without meaning rots the soul. Influence without service corrupts the spirit. But when you decide that your transformation is not just for you, but for others, your family, your community, humanity itself, then your vision becomes indestructible because it is bigger than you. 10 years of contribution builds a legacy, and legacy is wealth the grave cannot take. So hold the vision, guard the flame, refuse to drift, build with discipline, surround yourself with strength, embrace the layers of transformation, endure the suffering with purpose, and give back with generosity. 10 years from now, you will stand on a mountain of evidence, proof that you did not waste the most precious resource of all time. One vision. 10 years. Total transformation. 10 years.